Is social media helping or hurting society? That's what I'll tackle in today's House Call. The Social Dilemma is a new documentary available on Netflix that explores the impact that social media is having on individuals and our society as a whole. Insiders, former employees, current employees at the major social media companies like Facebook and Google, Instagram, they weigh in on their concerns about the way the business model of these social media organizations is impacting our human behavior. And so the crux of their argument is that the way Facebook and other companies make money is by keeping us watching. In other words, the algorithm, you hear a lot about the algorithm on YouTube and the algorithm on Facebook. The algorithm is designed in such a way that it predicts what you might want to see and shows that to you in a way that encourages you, entices you to spend more time on social media. Now, the insiders point out that this was done simply as a way to make these services feel better, to make them a better experience. They didn't intend necessarily to have detrimental effect. However, what they are coming to believe is that the impact of these ideas is that one, people are becoming addicted to social media, and I think that's something that most people wouldn't bother to argue about because everyone recognizes that it's true. I can at least acknowledge that I have an unhealthy relationship with Facebook. I spend way too much time on it, and most people will tell you the same about themselves. They spend too much time on some social media platform. But it goes even further than that. So in 2016, Facebook got a lot of heat, particularly around the 2016 election, when we discovered that Facebook has a system for deciding what any individual will see in their timeline. In other words, each person has a timeline that is custom made for them by the supercomputers at Facebook. And the algorithm that the computer uses plays on something called confirmation bias. It's the idea that we seek out information that confirms what we believe and it disregards information that would disprove our own beliefs. Now, they weren't doing that necessarily on purpose. What they were attempting to do was make it so that people stayed on Facebook longer, had a better, more pleasurable experience. The problem is what it does is creates a world in which you believe everyone believes the same things you believe because you're not going to see things that contradict your own beliefs. And the problem with that is if I'm over here seeing these sets of facts and someone else is over here seeing a different set of facts, neither of us recognizes that the other is seeing something different. And what will happen is I will believe, what the heck is wrong with that guy for thinking what he thinks based on this information that we clearly are both seeing. The problem is we're not both seeing it. And it creates a scenario where right now in our current world, it is very difficult to get people to recognize and agree on what is even true about our world. And the way this plays out, you see, for example, with things like the coronavirus. There are very divided views on this, whether or not it's even real, whether or not this is something we should be concerned about, whether or not it's a conspiracy that's made up by the government or the government is doing a great job of keeping us safe. These are the kinds of problems that at least these employees of social media companies are concerned about. And what they say is if we play this thing out over a number of years without any regulation of the system that these social media companies are using, it could actually tear away at the fabric of our very society, such that we no longer trust each other. We no longer feel a need to connect with people. We no longer seek out truth independently. We simply go to social media and we are spoon-fed information and we soak it up without any question. And there's another major issue, particularly for young people, with programs like Snapchat and Instagram, where they are fueled by things like likes and attention and instant gratification, and the impact that that is having on the brain of a young person. And the employees and also several scholars in this documentary were used to illustrate for us the damaging effect on our brains, on our self-esteem, on the way we interact with the world. And here on House Call, we've covered this. We've covered the impact of social media and the fact that it is actually, I believe, and I've spoken to many of my peers who believe, that it is tearing away at our very ability to interact in normal human ways. And so I would encourage you to take a look at The Social Dilemma. It's a really riveting documentary and poses interesting questions. Now, my opinion, the most interesting question that they pose is, how do we fix this issue? And what they point out is that people like Mark Zuckerberg, the executives at these social media companies, they would argue that social media companies are best equipped to fix this issue because they're the ones on the inside understanding what's happening. And these insiders are arguing that that is simply illogical. In other words, they make the argument that these algorithms are although they are written by humans, they are now carried out by supercomputers that have taken on a life of their own. And it is not going to simply be in the business interest of these social media companies to rework that algorithm, possibly losing revenue, right? Because the major issue is that this algorithm was created in order to extract revenue. The way this works, social media companies keep our attention on them, and then they sell our attention to advertisers. That's where the money comes from. And if you change this algorithm, the social media company is essentially volunteering to make less money, which is not logical, not likely for any company in America. And so they essentially make the argument for necessity in regulation, perhaps government regulation, of the way social media works. And so it's an interesting question. Who should be in charge of addressing this issue? Should it be the social media companies? Should it be the federal government, state government? And I don't know the answer. What I would say is, as a parent, I would at least want parents to have some pause when thinking about young people and their access to social media. And it's because, as one of the scholars in The Social Dilemma pointed out, if you're talking about a young person or even a fully grown adult, and your ability to self-regulate when the other side of that equation is a supercomputer designed to outsmart you and keep you focused on social media, you are simply ill-equipped to fight that battle yourself. However, what I would want is for parents to at least give some thought to this and recognize that limitations on screen time are going to be helpful, because we don't know the long-term impact of this social media world that we now live in. But what we do know is it does not appear to be as good as what we hoped it would be for our society. And some say it may be destroying us as we speak. And so I would encourage you to think about that. I would encourage you to let us know what you think. If you've seen the documentary, leave it in the comments. Tell us your reactions to it. If you have reactions or thoughts on social media, let us know what it's doing for your life or doing to your life. And we'd love to hear from you. And also, don't forget to subscribe. It seems kind of strange talking about subscribing to social media as I'm warning you about social media, but my hope is that here at House Call, we are at least warning you about the detriments that could come, and so we are contributing to the service of making sure you are thinking about these things and hopefully keeping you safe. That's all I've got for today. I'm Dr. Ruben Brock, and this is House Call.